、じゃあ読んでいきたいと思います。読んだら寝ます。はい、行きましょう。So what is it to the point of it? With his suggested 4 extra members, Mr. Trump seems to envisage a G11 or perhaps the G12 if Brazil came into becoming a China containment club, but having China's junior partner Russia in the mix would undermine that idea. By contrast, points out Michael think that if this is to be the steering committee of the world economy, then China deserves to be included. Perhaps it should simply be a modernized version of what the G7 has aspired to be all along, a powerful group of like-minded democracies. With their impressive response to the pandemic, Australia and South Korea can claim to have earned a place at the top table. That problem is that it is less clear how will America itself fit into the club these days. Under Mr. Trump, especially since a contentious summit in Canada 2 years ago, when he withdrew his name from the concluding statement. The group has often looked more like a G6 power delegation. Fishing. Alaska welcomes hurricanes. Kenanu, Alaska. Disrupted supply chains make a source of wild food even more welcome. Each spring, Alaskans gather on river banks wearing chest waders and carrying long handled nets in search of one of the earliest sources of wild foods in the year. Silver pencil-length smelts called hooligans that are workhorse of marine food webs and an obsession of many state residents who coming out of winter are looking for fresh local food, also called candlefish because they are so oily you can dry them inside a week and light them like a candle. Hooligan school in coastal waters of the Northern Pacific as soon as the ice breaks up before running up glacial rivers each spring to spawn. Alaska natives have long depended on these high-fat fish for oil and food and traded them with inland tribes across the Grace Trails of Southeast Alaska and British Columbia. Alaskans of all stripes enjoy them baked, pan-fried, smoked, dried, pickled, and canned. No need to drive to become more self-reliant while some stores still restrict the amount of meat customers can buy here. There are no limits on foreign catches. はい。ラキシングトンかな。なんて読むんでしょうね。For worse than Nixon, Donald Trump pledged to restore America to order recalls Andrew Johnson more than tricky decade. Many have compared the protests and violence that have consumed America to the conflagration of 1968, which saw the assassination of Martin Luther King and Robert F. Kennedy and race riot in many cities. No one has done so more enthusiastically than Donald Trump. As demonstrations against George Floyd's asphyxiation began to boil in Minneapolis, the president warned that any looters would be shot, using the phrase synonymous with the violence of half a century ago. Emerging from his White House bunkers, he declared, "I am your president of law and order," and echo of Richard Nixon's campaign for election that year, silent majority. Mr. Trump tweeted in a reference to Nixon's success and his hope of that America was heading for another civil war. He blamed racial Republicans, but the voters decided that he, by blocking the emancipation of former slaves and steering his supporters to riot, what's the likeliest cause of conflict. The Republicans won with a landslide big enough to override his vetoes. This allowed them to ratify the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, granting equal protection of laws to all. It is a tragedy demanding protest that it has not yet been achieved, but the past week's event have perhaps brought it closer. The Americas. Canada contenders for a cracked crown. Vancouver. The job of leading the opposition to Justin Trudeau looks like a thankless one for now. We signed up more now members than have ever been signed up in the history of a Conservative Party leadership campaign. So said Peter MacKay, one of two front runners to be the party's leader, in an email to supporters on May 7th. His main rival, Erin O'Toole, declared that our campaign set a record for most membership sales in party history. The success in minting Conservative is deceptive. Canada's main opposition party is in a funk. It won 200,000 more votes than Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party in the parliamentary election last October, but Mr. Trudeau won enough seats to remain Prime Minister at the head of the minority government. Under scare, the Conservatives' leader is bowing out. The postal ballot to choose a successor is expected to produce a result by last August. The party does not say how many members it has. 141,000 voted in the last leadership election. The winner will face a prime minister who looks far more formidable than he did in October. Voters think he has handled the pandemic well. As a share of the population, Canada's 7,579 confirmed deaths are half that of the United States. 4/5 have been in old age homes. More than 2/3 of Canadians approve of the government handling of the pandemic, according to Economist. Opposed even the oil-producing Alberta, where the Liberals won no seat. Mr. Trudeau's approval rating has doubled since February to 35%, according to Angus Lane, another polling firm. A snap election could happen by this time next year, say Croy Tenike, who was communications director for Stephen Harper, Canada's last Conservative Prime Minister. Perhaps disconcerting for Conservative is that Mr. Trudeau is using COVID-19 to remark Canada in unconservative ways. Like many governments, Canada is spending lots of money to shield citizens from the pandemic economic impact. The Parliamentary Budget Office expects the federal deficit to reach at least to $187 billion, a record 30% of GDP, in the fiscal year ending in March. The largesse includes grants of $500 Canada dollars a week for 60 weeks to workers who have been furloughed or laid off or are self-employed. employers can apply to get subsidies worth 75% of a worker's wage for up to 24 weeks. During the global financial crisis of 2007-8, Mr. Harper led the deficit rise but rebalanced the budget before leaving office in 2015. Conservatives fear that under Mr. Trudeau, high deficit will become permanent. Some might a bigger role for the state in telling industry what to do. The idea that Canada can just rely on traditional market focus to remain competitive while everyone else is adopting more active industrial strategies is foolhardy, declares a recent blog post by the Public Policy Forum, a think tank. Mr. Trudeau may agree. Even before the pandemic, he was an advocate of government support for industry. He deemed promising. Left-wing activists are lobbying for the nationalization of privately owned care firms, where people are more likely to die than the public one. The idea is popular. Even Alberta, known for its larger individual, while Canadians approve of the way he's handling the country's worst crisis since the Second World War. But if hardship wasn't, he will become vulnerable. The job of leading Canada's opposition may turn out to be more rewarding than it looks. 何言ったか分かんなかったね。Columbia Midland's medieval marvel. Bogota, how the country's second largest city is controlling the pandemic. Daniel Quintero, the mayor of Medellin, has had an unusual career. He sold bonsai tree, and homemade dessert on the street to pay university fees. Became an engineer and was Vice Minister of Information and Technology in an earlier Colombian government. The biography may have explained his unconventional approach to COVID-19. He began to prepare Colombia's second largest city in late January. Many Colombians called him paranoid. As February passed with no case in the country, he wondered if they might be right. When the virus arrived in March, the province of Antioquia, of which Medellin is capital, locked down 5 days earlier than most of the country. Mr. Quintero acted faster than any other mayor. The biggest challenge, as in many Latin American cities, is to keep people at home. When many get no income. when get no income if they do not work. Mr. Quintero's program called Medellin Make Cuida Medellin takes care of me, less on collecting data. Like other big cities, Medellin allocated money to help workers fuel their income. Bogota and Cali struggled to find them. Medellin asked residents to register for help online. To sign up, people must provide a lot of information, including the size of their household and the details of their electricity bill. The building information stops families from getting more than one aid package. More than 3 million people, nearly 90% of the metropolitan area's population, have signed up. Those in need have received food or, more commonly, 2 payments of 100,000 pesos. $28, enough for family to survive for some week when many have suspended paying rent and utility bills. People in Medellin have respected the lockdown more than other Colombians. はい、今日はここまでおやすみなさい。 1月4日一文だけ読みます。はい。When they register, people are asked whether they have symptoms of COVID-19 or condition that would make it harder to treat. はい、おやすみなさい。はい、おはようございます。1月5日ですね。じゃあ30分読んでいきたいと思います。その前なんですけど、ファイナルカットプロの有効期限が切れました。フリートライアルの。だから iMovie で多分編集します。When they register, people are asked whether they have symptoms of COVID-19 or condition that would make it harder to treat. They can update the information on a hotline. The city maps that data of identify outbreaks and predict them. Health promotion unit.Mainly private firms that private health insurance to most Colombians send team to test neighbors of COVID-19 patients. Officials makes sure patients and people exposed to them stay at home. COVID-19 patients get kits with oximeter, which tests their blood oxygen. If it falls to dangerous level,and the EPS sends a team with oxygen. The metro uses Medellin Cuida's data to block cards belonging to patients and their families. Colombia has controlled COVID-19 better than many of its neighbors. It has had 33,466 confirmed cases and 1,099 deaths. In Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, and Peru, the death rate is at least 3 times higher. Even by Colombia's standards, Medellin, once home of the drug lord Pablo Escobar, it says just 3 people in the city have died of the diseases and 8 are in hospitals. 304 people have recovered. More than are sick. In Cartagena, a tourist city on Colombia's Atlantic coast, hospitals are unable to cope with the caseload. Medellin's success continues a record of innovation by earlier mayors, such as reducing poverty. 23. Before they return to the passenger numbers and profitability they had in 2019, even Copa, which is financially strong and does not plan to seek state aid, will operate at only about 40% of capacity in December, according to its boss, Pedro Heilbron.There are 2 reasons why government should worry about all this. First, if the airline lacks cash, that may itself slow economic recovery, and second, competition may be distorted as subsidized foreign carriers gobble up more international traffic to and from the region. After the initial license, responses, the government of both Chile and Colombia and considering providing aid. If they do, it should come with strings such as lowering emissions and trying to stimulate rather than restrict competition in the medium term. Latin America needs its airline. It does not need to coddle them. Middle East and Africa, Yemen and COVID-19, the indivisible outbreak. なるほど。Belt the authorities in Yemen either cannot test for the virus or do not want to. Either cannot test for the virus. テストしないねんて。そしてむしろしたくないというね、そういう権力者、イエメンの権力者たちは思っているというね。There are no daily news conferences about COVID-19 in Yemen, no chart or maps or delegate of data. There are barely any tests, but there are bodies Silently but steadily, the biases has taken root in the Arab world poorest country. Its spread can be glimpsed in anecdotes from doctors and snippets on social media. In one city aid agency says grave diggers work overtime to keep up with the dead, most of them middle-aged men. In another city, doctors who talk about the pandemic are threatened with arrest or worse. If you judge by the official numbers, Yemen has largely been spared. It has reported just 490 coronavirus infections and 95 deaths. But no one believes those numbers. Ravaged by year of war, the healthcare system has all but collapsed. Authorities lack the ability to track the outbreak, and in parts of the country they do not want to. Yemen was singularly ill prepared for the pandemic. Even now, after shipment of extra supplies, it has just 675 intensive care beds and 309 ventilators, says the UN hospitals. And clinics have been bombed throughout a 5-year war between Saudi-led coalition and the Houthis. A Shia militant group medical staff have fled the country, leaving 1 in 6 of Yemen's 333 districts without any doctor. Millions of people cannot properly wash their hands because they lack clean water. A cholera outbreak has infected more than 2 million people and killed 4,000 since 2016. The country has been split in two since the coalition invaded in 2015, a campaign meant to topple the Houthis, who had seized the capital months earlier. This south is formally controlled by Saudi allies loyal to the president Abdulrahman Mansour Hadi. In April, though, secessionists seized the port city of Eden and declared the region autonomous. Two camps has spent weeks fighting for control, but the health ministry split along the same. Spirit along the same. ちょっとこっち向きの方がいいかも。Spirit along the same, fighting the health ministry split along the same line to raise money for COVID-19 response and other aid programs. Netted $1.4 billion, well below its target of $2.4 billion. Yemenis in all parts of the country struggle to afford protective gear, disposable face mask if replaced daily would eat up about half the monthly income of a typical family of 4. The better N95 masks cost about $8 each. Several days pay, even for doctors, who often must supply their own gear. Residents of Sanas cannot find hand sanitizer and other necessities. The outbreak is not only exacerbated by economic crisis. It also worsened it. Saudi Arabia has been the biggest donor to Yemen, contributing billion, even as it simultaneously bombs the country. In 2018, it paid for imports. Only a tenth of that is thought to remain, with the kingdom facing a deep deficit brought on by lockdowns and low oil prices. Few in Yemen expect the money to be replenished So the currency will probably depreciate. The slump in wealthy Gulf states has also hurt remittance of Yemen, which last year amounted to $3.8 billion, 30% of GDP. Oxfam, an aid agency, estimated that the volume of remittance has dropped by 80% in the first 4 months of 2020. All of this comes as the war itself seemed to be winding down. The United Arab Emirates, which led the fighting in the south, withdrew most of its troops, have little power. There is, for example, a minister of education and a minister of higher education. There is a minister of cyber and national digital matters. Though the police handle cybercrime, the army does cyber warfare, and a separate ministry deals with science and technology. The Ministry of Community Empowerment and Advancement has just been created. In cases, having a ministry in charge of social services and a ministry for social equality was not enough. 十分ではない。social equality は十分ではない。に対するミニスタリーとかね。Half a century ago, Israel had many fewer. めっちゃ大事に言ってんの。But the country's proportional representation system makes it difficult to form a stable government coalition. Just ask Benjamin Netanyahu, tasks previously handled by the Ministry of Public Security, which is Ms. Levy Abe cases will also oversee projects to strengthen Arab neighborhood. Her credentials include supporting Mr. Netanyahu's plans to annex part of the occupied West Bank and breaking away from an alliance of left-wing parties because it was backed by a predominantly Arab party. The proliferation of ministries has the potential to create confusion. Take the Ministry of Strategic Affairs, which was created in 2006 by Ehud Olmert. The Prime Minister. The Prime Minister to reward Avigdor Lieberman, leader of the Jerusalem Beit Party. The ministry was meant to keep an eye on Iran and another series. Of course, so were the Ministry of Defense, Foreign Affairs and Public Service, which was the one Mr. Lieberman actually wanted to lead. The strategic actually wanted to. The Strategic Affairs Ministry was closed in 2008 after Mr. Lieberman left the government and reopened in 2007 by Netanyahu, who had become Prime Minister. An article in the Jerusalem Post at the time asked who's in charge of who and over what. はい、今日はここまで。眠たい。全然頭入ってこっから眠たい。